Package just came in.
Get everybody out of here.
Hi, Chris. Congrats on the film. I am so stoked to talk to you about Spiral because I feel like it just tackles so much more that you would expect in a Saw film. So I wanted to know, why is now the perfect time to tell this story, and what went into the decision to tackle the topics that are covered?
The weird thing is, it's a lot of it's about police corruption, but this movie was written and done before any of the stuff that happened last summer. So that's just an odd coincidence that it's, coming out at the same time. But I've always been a fan of the Saw movies, and I just thought, maybe if we sprinkle some humor into this, it might be a different experience. And I think we pulled it off. So
1,000%. After watching this, I was like thinking of the other Saw films, and I'm like, it would have worked so much better had there been like pockets of humor in it. You know what I mean? I also read that you wanted to put your own spin on the Saw franchise in the same way that Eddie Murphy did with the buddy cop films in like 48 Hours. So I was curious, did you call Eddie at all and get his input? And if so, what did he say?
Nah, I didn't call Eddie. I mean, maybe we were talking Coming to America too, but we never got into Saw. But the movie, it's kind of an Eddie Murphy-ish take in a horror movie, because there is no Eddie Murphy horror movie. But so it's kind of like that kind of cop in a horror movie, in a gory horror movie.
And as scary as, this film is, and as gory as it is, I feel like we all know there's nothing scarier than being a stand-up comedian. But obviously doing new things are scary too. So I'm curious, what is the fear level for you venturing into these new dramatic turns like Fargo and Spiral?
What's the fear level? It's scary. I mean, please, scarier than stand-up for me. Especially Fargo, that was scary. I don't know, but it's a good scary. You know what I mean? It's a good, like, you're scared you're going to hurt somebody. Like Mike Tyson, I'm scared I'm going to kill him. Right now, it just feels like, I love my kids. I love my life in general. So in order for me to like leave my life and act, I got to have better parts. And, so I gave the orders to the people that I work with, let's start thinking of, more dramatic turns here, things with a little more substance to them. And it's been working out fine.
Yes. Plus you learn how to swim. So now you can tackle anything,
I can tackle. If you can learn how to swim in your 50s, you can do anything.
So Samuel L. Jackson plays your father in the film. Do you see Samuel L. Jackson as a father figure?
He's 20 years older than me, so he definitely could be my father. He definitely could be my father. So, I see him as an elder, and he gets, I give him the respect of an elder. I don't, you don't talk to Sam Jackson the way you talk to, Tracy Morgan. I mean, you give Tracy respect, but you got to give Sam a little more. So I definitely view him as an elder. Absolutely.
The first thing I wrote down to ask you after watching this film was, who do you think has said the F word more in their career, you or Sam Jackson?
That's a good one. I think Sam might have me. I mean, I've definitely said it more in cable and Netflix, but in movies, Sam, absolutely.
Let's talk about the traps. What is it like coming in contact with a trap? Who comes up with this sick stuff? And do you have any input?
You know what? We had like a nice deal where I was in charge of comedy and Darren and the writers were in charge of the traps. And occasionally the two would meet. And I could basically say anything I wanted as long as it didn't undermine the horror of the movie. That was kind of what we decided on.
Is it nauseous seeing it like in person?
Yeah, when you see somebody going through it, it's really scary. And especially some of these traps, I'm not saying they're real, but they're damn near real. So it's like people haven't gotten hurt. No one's been killed, but it's like, it takes a minute to get it right and comfortable on somebody. So when you hear somebody screaming, you're like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah, it must be bone chilling. I was talking to Darren about the glass trap, and he was telling me how they used rubber glass and how it like actually hurt you, and you're wearing goggles.
Yeah, stuff like that's a good example of it can take out an eye. So but they just made it, so they don't know. So that's the thing about the traps. They're brand new. Nobody knows exactly what they're doing, and sometimes people get hurt.
So scary. Ugh, so gruesome. I wanted to ask you about your other films too. Out of all the films that you've been in, Chris, which do you think deserve sequels but never got any?
Oh my God. I mean, I don't know. I haven't done we talked about a Pootie Tang sequel. There's definitely been talk of a Pootie Tang sequel. There's been a lot of talk about a Good Hair sequel where I deal with natural hair. Plus, like, my daughters were in Good Hair, and now they're like grown and in college and whatnot. And it would be nice to show them with their natural hair now. I don't know, maybe another Head of State, maybe. Death at a funeral, somebody else dies, so somebody else has to die.
Somebody else always has to die. Yeah. I love it. I wanted to ask you about the comedy that you do infuse into this film, because it starts off hilarious. There's this iconic joke about, Forrest Gump. So talk to us about, infusing that comedy and the decision to put that in the beginning of the film, and where the idea for that came from.
I mean, there's a scene in Reservoir Dogs where they're talking about Like a Virgin, Madonna, while they're plotting to kill somebody. So I tried to kind of steal that vibe. It's like, a bunch of killers talking about Forrest Gump and how it could never be made today. So I think I did a decent job. I think we got it. It's pretty outrageous, but it still feels serious. It feels matter of fact. I feel like I'm doing stand-up. You know what I mean?
I know when you go into a comedy special, your first priority is to be funny, like no matter how many jokes you've written. So coming into stuff like this, what is your first priority?
My first priority, when you're doing a movie, the first priority is the story, that it tracks, that it makes sense. So, and once you got a good story, then you can be funny. And then it doesn't seem so silly because you're being funny in a real situation. So the first thing is to really get the situation and the script down.
Hello, Detective Banks. Do you know where your officers are?
I wanted to start off with asking you about the traps. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, do they come up with the trap and then write the story, or is the story written and then they come up with the trap?
Yeah, when you get the script, the traps that are in the script are never what ends up in the movie. And a lot of times it'll just be a blank hole. It'll say like, Boz runs into the sewer, insert Boz trap, and then next scene. It won't actually say what the trap is. And then we, over the course of pre-production, try to figure it out. And it's a team of people. It's not a single person. It's not the writers. It's not me. It is the wardrobe, the stunts, the writers, the production designer, the producers, and that it changes. The traps will change 15 times, and sometimes it will be changing up until hours before we actually film the trap.
Whoa. And so how long is that process? Like once you guys come up with the trap, how long does it take to, make it?
Well, this is the thing which is fun about the Saw franchise is that we have engineers and effects guys that will literally spend weeks and weeks and weeks beta testing the traps and sending us videos. So I'll give you an example. In the movie, there's a trap that breaks glass and shoots the glass out. So they built that for real and tested it for real with glass. So there's video footage of them, for example, in a parking lot with a flat, like a wall, and putting real glass bottles and seeing, is it have enough power to actually shoot the glass like we say we are? So we go through this really insane, rigorous process of making sure the traps really work and they do what we like. So for the finger trap, we had mannequins that were actually seeing, will this actually work? Will it do what we say it does? And then once we get that point to, yes, it works, then we begin to paint it to make it age down and look old and gross, and then eventually gets put into the Saw movie. So it takes months from the moment of us figuring it out to the building, the testing, until eventually it ends up in a movie.
I'm geeking out right now. This is literally the coolest conversation I'll ever have. I'm so glad you brought up the glass trap, because that was my favorite in the film. And in my head, I was like, maybe you can talk about it a little bit more, that you've mentioned it. What did you guys, was it sugar? Like what was used?
So it's a combination of things. We actually had some of the cutaway shots is actually plexiglass that's actually flying into the wall exactly as you see it. When Chris is in the shot or the other actor is in the shot, we're using rubber glass, which is looks like glass, it's rubber. That they're getting hit with, but that hurts, by the way, because it's being shot out. It's being shot out by air cannons. So if you're Chris Rock and you're getting hit and it's hitting you in the side of the face, it's coming at you fast. So when Chris is not looking, like when his back is towards, he's wearing goggles just so he doesn't get hit. It's actually rubber glass, and then there was some augmented VFX glass. If it's by their face, for example, and we can't put it by their face because coming out so fast, so it's a combination of plexiglass, real glass, rubber glass, and visual effect glass.
It is just the team and the artistry behind it is just so brilliant. Okay, so they make the trap. How does it go? And then you test it out and it works. I want to know how you make it come to life after you said you paint it down and make it look old. Because for me, Darren, it's not so much the visual that makes my skin crawl, it's the sound. So I'd love to also...
100%. I was just talking to someone else about this. To me, the sound design in the Saw franchise is its own character, as is the music. Right. Charlie Clouser, who does the music composition, and he's one of the few that have been with the franchise since Saw 1. He's done all the music. If you go back and rewatch Saw 2, the needle trap scene, if you turn the music off and just watch the visual, it's not scary. What makes it scary is the sound design and the Charlie Clouser score, which makes you just like tense up. It is the acting as well. Like if you watch the glass trap scene, it's that actor, Patrick, his face contorting in horror, screaming, begging, crying for help. And the sound design of the glass shards smashing and breaking, and that Charlie Clouser music that makes it intense. And also, a shout out to the DP Jordan Oram who shot that thing to look always hot and gross and sweaty throughout the entire movie. I think that all of these elements make Saw what Saw is, and make those traps what the traps are.
God, you're so good at what you do. This is so cool. I'm so happy you're shouting out the team, because it really is a recipe for this beautiful disaster. And I'm proud of myself for coming up with that sound thing though, too, because I was like, it's really the sound that gets you in all these soft films. You know what?
I'll tell you a funny story that maybe I should not admit. So we get NPA issues always with the Saw movies. They're always an NC-17. And one of the issues that I learned on Saw 3, and I got this advice from Rob Zombie. I could not get an R rating on Saw 3. I could not get it. So I called Rob Zombie, who had a movie out called Devil's Rejects that I thought was much more violent. And I said, Rob, how did you get the R? And he said, sound plays such an important role in the MPAA. Strip the sound out, strip the sound design out, strip all of that out. And he's like, when you present it back to them, just show them the violence. And so when you take all the sound out, they're like, fine, that's an R. Because the sound adds so much, you think you're seeing much more than you are due to the sound. So sound is one of the most important characters.
It's so interesting. What do you guys do with the traps when you're done with them? Like, are they in some sort of Saw museum? Are they at your house, in your garage? Like, where are they?
I have no idea. Like, some of these are so huge, such as the trash compactor one or the glass one. That is such a big device. But there are some stuff that is put into a storage locker in Toronto, because again, you never know when you're coming back. I think when they made Saw 1, they tore everything down. They tore the bathroom down and they moved on. Then here I come on Saw 2 and I'm like, I need the bathroom back. So I think they learned to keep everything for a few years just to make sure, because you never know with the Saw movies when flashbacks occur and when we're going to want other stuff. But yeah, so it all exists. Most of it exists in a storage place in Toronto.
Okay. Well, hopefully no one breaks in there because now I'm terrified.
This guy's going to break in there.
It's okay if you do. So I saw some rumors about a Saw TV series. Are they looking to expand the universe? What can you tell us about what the future looks like for Saw and Spiral?
I want to preface by this is just me. This is not, I have no knowledge of what Lionsgate or Twisted Picture is doing. But I think the idea has always been with Mark and Oren is they'll keep making Saws as long as audiences keep watching them. I think Spiral kind of showed everyone that it doesn't have to necessarily follow John Kramer. In the same way that Star Wars and the Marvel movie have spin-offs, we can spin off the Saw universe and tell other stories. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a true Saw 9, meaning this is the 9th installment of Saw, but it's not Saw 9. Saw 9, it would be a John Kramer, Costas Mandylor story. I think you could see a Spiral 2. I think you could see a TV series, a video game, a comic book. There's many stories left to tell in the Saw universe. And that's what's exciting is you might see a John Kramer, Tobin Bell Saw. You might see another Chris Rock, you know, whatever. You never know. And I think as long as fans keep watching them, they'll keep making them.
Wait, I thought the Jigsaw Killer was dead.
He is.
Were you a fan of the Saw franchise coming into this?
I was a big fan of the franchise. I really loved Saw 2. That's sort of my favorite one, which was directed by Darren Bousman as well. So it was very cool that he kind of came back for this one.
Yeah. Is it hard coming in and doing a movie like this when you are a fan of it?
Yes and no. I wouldn't say it's hard. I think it's kind of exciting. You know, it's really fun to be a part of a movie that you know you would go and see, even if you had nothing to do with it. And I think we all felt that way. I think we all kind of felt grateful to get to play in this space.
Nice. What was it like being on set? I'm so curious as to what it is just being there, because obviously we know, you know, it's very gruesome. It's very gory. So what's it like being on set? Is everyone just like covered in blood?
It's a really nice group of people who make these movies. They're kind of a family. You know, that's what it feels like. It feels like you're stepping into a family. They're all Canadian. So as we all know, Canadians are the nicest. And we all work really hard. I mean, we worked really hard. It was a fun set and there were lots of jokes and it wasn't heavy, like it felt light. But my biggest memory was really how kind of professional it felt and how much everyone was putting into it. I think we all really cared about getting it right, you know?
That's so interesting that you say it felt very light, because watching it as an audience member, it's like the legit opposite of that. So I'm curious as to like, what the traps are like in person, you know, and seeing like this gruesomeness and goriness, like, does that stay with you? Is it as scary like on set as it is when we watch it on screen?
No, it's really cool. You know, it's just cool to see it in person. You know what it reminds me of is like, did you ever go to Universal Cities studio tour or anything like that?
Yeah.
It feels like that. It feels like, it feels like you're getting like to see behind the curtain of, all this really exciting make-believe.
Yeah, that's a funny way to compare it to. I can like totally feel that. That's so funny. You have some powerful scenes with Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson. So we wanted to know, you know, what was it like shooting with them?
Amazing. I mean, they're both completely iconic people and two of the great actors. So it's very humbling and it's always smart, I think, to work with people who are much more talented than you. That's always been my game plan is surround yourself with people you can learn from. And this was really no exception.
Did you learn anything from them by working with them?
Oh my God, so much. I mean, especially, you know, Chris and I were stuck together a lot, you know, in this movie and to get to be able to pick his brain, and he's a great filmmaker as well as an actor and comedian and amazing writer and somebody I just really look up to aside from this experience. So I feel like I learn a million things every day.
Is there one thing that you could maybe share with us that you took away?
Yeah, he's very professional. He's the first guy on set. He's the last guy to leave. He's very generous. He's very kind. And I think anytime you work with somebody that successful and their manners are that good, it's always a good reminder.
Nice. Is there anything that you shot with, you know, Sam or with Chris that didn't make it into the film that ended up on the cutting room floor?
No. You know what's so crazy is almost, I think every single thing I shot is in the movie, which doesn't always happen, you know? And they were cool in like, in terms of including a lot of ad libs and like riffs and stuff, which, you know, we weren't sure was going to happen. So they were very generous with us in our performances, I think, in the edit.
That's so cool. I feel like that's rare, you know, to see everything that you did like in the movie. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. It's lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of us know you, you know, as Nick Blaine from The Handmaid's Tale. How do you think that role prepared you for your role in this film?
Not at all. I love playing both roles. I think what was so cool for me playing William was he's so different to anybody I've played before. He's much like goofier and like more like wide-eyed and naive, you know, than sort of characters I'm normally asked to play. So that was fun. And, you know, I'm also used to playing kind of doing romantic stuff. And there's no romantic element to this movie whatsoever. I mean, I guess we have a kind of bromance in the movie, but everything about it felt like a new territory. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed having fun with these guys.
Yeah, you feel that bromance and chemistry. It's so awesome. I feel like a lot of people are going to be wondering, you know, walking out of this film, would you be down for a sequel? Would you come back if you were asked?
No question. I mean, I would love to do another one. I don't think any of us want to count our eggs too early. Like, who knows what's going to happen? You never know. I really hope people go and see it and they like it. That's the most important thing, is that we get this first movie right.
There's also rumors flying around about a Saw TV series. Do you know anything about that? Like, are they looking to expand the universe? What's in store for the future as far as Saw and Spiral goes?
They don't tell us anything, I think, so that we don't have to lie when we talk to you guys. So all I know is what you guys know. You know, I read it in the trades along with everybody else. And I can tell you, as a fan of the Saw franchise, I think there's a lot of opportunities there. I mean, I think you could do all sorts of things, and I'd watch all of them.
What do you hope people take away when watching this film? Because it's unlike any other Saw film I've seen before.
God, I just hope they have a good time. You know, like one of the things I'm so proud of with the film is how unpretentious it is. It doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's really a ride. It's not Civic Vegetables or anything like that. You know, a lot of movies nowadays, I just really don't. I'm not having a great time because I feel like I'm being told off all the time, or getting like a free college class. And this isn't like that. This is just an escapist, rollicking adventure. And those are the kind of movies I like going to see.
They're hours, not days.
How can I catch this guy? If there's nobody on the force, I can bust!
You can't do this alone.
Were you a fan of Saw coming into this?
I'm a super fan of horror movies. Saw is probably the freakiest of them. I think you have to have like a strong stomach to watch the movies. I still am like, when it comes to the gore. But I love a good thriller. I love a good scary movie. I love a good serial killer, and I love a good mystery. So I was so in.
I love a good serial killer. Did you? It's so true. Everybody does. This is America, you know?
I know.
Is it harder to do these types of films when you are a fan of the genre like that?
I think there's a little bit of pressure to do homage to it, you know, something that's been existing for so long and the fans are so avid. It's a thing. I think it's like how people feel coming onto Riverdale. They're a little like, oh, okay, all right. Now I get it. I'm like, okay, no pressure. There's a little bit of that awareness that people have done this before you and you better do a good job. So there's that.
Right. Well, you killed it. You mentioned, you know, for the audience, these movies are hard to stomach sometimes. What is it like being on set? Do you get nauseous? Like, is everyone just covered in blood? Like, can you walk us through and paint the picture of what it's like on set?
It's so funny. It's like the more horrible the scream is and the torture is, the more giddy everyone is behind Video Village. It's hilarious.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, that's going to be so good. And there's like an excitement to it, which is the oddest reaction, you know? And you're sort of like poking the prosthetic going, that looks real. That's freaky. God, what's wrong with you? It's really fun. And that's, I think, what makes it so exciting is I can't wait for people to see the other side of it. You know, it's really fun being on this side, but I've always been the one on the other side experiencing it in the theaters and being scared and tortured, that I'm excited. I can't wait for people to see it.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing your perspective on that. It sounds like the feeling when you're about to surprise someone. It sounds like that fun feeling you get where you're like, I know this is going to be so good, you know?
Yeah, that is the perfect description. Like, you know, you're going to freak someone out and you can't wait. And you're like, wait till you see their face and I can't wait. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Thank you for that. Obviously, I don't want you to spoil anything, but your character does come in contact with a trap. I was wondering if you could tell us, you know, as much as you can tell us, and how is that for you as an actor? Is it hours of hair and makeup? Do you get any input?
It is, no, the hair and makeup is not a big deal. I mean, there's prosthetics in the film and stuff like that, which you have to do. But as an actor, you're like, cool, let's do it. Awesome. What's this going to look like? And coming into contact with the traps, it's a little, you know, freaky. It's a little like, you know, I was telling someone else that when I met the writer, I was like, what kind of mind comes up with these horrific ways to torture people and choices? And I thought that I was going to meet the writer and he was going to be like kind of scary and kind of freaky and like you don't want to be alone in a room with him. And it's the exact opposite. And he's like this joyous guy who's like, can I take a selfie? And hi, and like so excited. And it was like, okay, so here's the fun part of this whole world. Yeah. So it's you kind of, that enthusiasm is addicting. It's fun.
That's funny. That oddly creeps me out even more. I'm like, are they just super giddy behind me at the grocery store coming up with torture contraptions?
I know how to torture that woman. She's like, wait, what? Okay.
You know, does any of this stuff stay with you after? What's your process coming out of this? You know, do things show up in your nightmares?
I get nightmares only being an audience member. Okay. So like watching a film like The Ring, it took me a long time to like, I'm not going to be alone with a TV on. What if the thing comes crawling out or whatever? Like really freaky things like that. They stay with you. Exorcist, movies like that. You're like, being on the other side of it, surprisingly, is not scary at all because you're making it. Like, oh, that's cool. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait for people. Oh, that's going to freak people out. That's going to be amazing. Right. It's not being on the other side of it. It's more fun than anything.
It's so great hearing that it's fun. You have some really awesome scenes with Samuel L. Jackson and Chris Rock. So I wanted to know, what was it like shooting with them? And did you shoot anything that didn't make it into the film that you wish did?
Thank you for asking. So first of all, Chris, I loved working with. I had so much fun balling him out and bossing him around. Like, come on, that was amazing. I love that. Like, great. And then Sam Jackson was just like, I was like, wow, he's really tall and I'm not freaked out at all. I'm cool. I'm not freaked out at all. I'm cool. That kind of monologue in my head the whole time. And there was a scene in the bathroom, in the men's room where I kicked the guy out with me and Chris. And that scene was a lot longer. And there were some really beautiful moments in there and levels. And, you know, fine, it cuts down. I get it. And it got cut down and it still works. But I miss that. I really liked what we found there. And I wish that would have made it. Maybe it'll be in behind the scenes or something like that.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what it was that was shot that didn't make it in?
It was just a very emotional scene. And Chris's character has to fight harder to win Angie over, to let him have that case because he's incompetent. He's not a team player. For lack of a better word, he's a brat. He needs to get over himself. And she doesn't want to give that to him. She doesn't believe that he can take this on and it's too important to trust. And he has to convince her to get her agreement. And so in the longer version, I was like, convince me. Convince me, win me over. And I liked that he had to fight harder for it. And I get what made the movie, but I wish we could have had that longer scene for it because I really liked it.
Yeah, well, thanks for telling us about it.
Yeah.
What was unique to your early prep work going into Spiral?
Like I said, I'm a horror fan. So for 20 years, I was waiting for this. And I was like, okay, you know, I'm not familiar with jump scares and this and that and the other. So how is this done? And when I read the script, it reminded me of Seven. So what I did was actually rewatch Seven as prep work. And it really helped because you're creating this environment. Like with Seven, the environment was raining all the time in that film. It's just pouring rain. And in our film, it's hot and it's sweaty and it's humid and it's like the city takes on a life of its own. And so I didn't want to forget about that in our film. And so bringing that sort of that element to, you know, that humidity and disgust, you know, as a female, we hate that, along with blackouts and a serial killer, and they're targeting us. And so there was a lot at stake. It was fun to hopefully bring all those elements into the performance.
Hello, Detective Banks.